Minasan, okaeri nasai! Hey everyone, and welcome back to more game news. Yeah! I really enjoyed doing this last week, so I'm going to try to make it a pretty consistent weekly show. At least that's what I'd like for it to be, because, well, like I said, I enjoy it. And it's nice to outlet for me to talk about a bunch of stupid stuff that happened over the week that a lot of other people I know, both online and offline, probably wouldn't care about or want to hear me like rant about. So this is a good outlet for me. It's a fun way for us to all talk about random stuff together. Anyway, we're going to be going from the week of June 3rd to June 11th. And since it's still effectively E3 month, a lot of news transpired, both bad and good. Mostly good, actually, this week. Unlike last week, which was a bit of a bummer. This week was actually full of a lot of really cool news. Though we're going to be starting off with a bit of a sad one. So, first, right off the bat, no holds bar. Let's get right into it, I think. First piece of news, Jada. This kind of happened basically during the live stream, I think, or the day after the last week of news. But Yuji Naka has left Square Enix. Now, it's not that surprising for those who don't know Yuji Naka. He is the creator of Sonic, as listed right here. I didn't mean to put him all in red like that. He is also a pretty famous and infamous creator in the game industry in general. As the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog, he's had a lot of highs and a lot of lows. Ooh, sorry, Freudian slip. A lot of lows. And most recently, his project, his passion project, so to speak, was with when he worked at Square Enix. He decided to make a game under a new company called Balan, and that game's name was Balan Wonderworld, not Wonderland, Wonderworld. Please get that right. It is very important that you understand that the game was called Balan Wonderworld, not Wonderland. I remember I actually played that game, not on stream. I almost did make a video of how boring it was, the demo, when it was launched, but it wasn't good, and I didn't hear anything good about the live game either. It just felt really unpolished and unsatisfying just to do something as simple as move around, which is something that Mario 64 nailed in 3D all the way back on the Nintendo 64. So having such a core part of the game just not feel good was not great. All the animations were really bad. They were very they clearly used some generic mocap and just threw it onto a generic skeleton, and it just didn't look good at all. It felt like something an amateur Gmodder would make. That's kind of fits for the entire game, honestly. In fact, I've seen Gmod games that are way better. I've played them too. So yeah, it's no surprise. He made an announcement not that long ago, or in an interview before the game launched, that Balan Wonderworld was his one shot with Square Enix, and it clearly didn't perform well or review well, so it's no surprise that he resigned back in the end of April. He said in a tweet, "While I cannot share the reason right now, the reason is obvious, so you don't need to, I hope to be able to discuss it when the time comes. As for what I'll do in the future, I'm already 55 years old, so I might as well retire." That's kind of sad, you know? Like I said, the first piece of news story was a bit of a bummer. Whether you like some of the games he's made or not, it is a shame just to see what is effectively industry legend just retire on such a sad note. Balan Wonderworld was... It's I think Gamatsu put it best here. It had abysmal reception, and it's just not a note you want to go out on, you know? I don't think anyone would want their last project to be that. So it's just sad that that's how he's going to go out, it seems. Maybe he'll get a boost in vitality there and be like, you know what, whatever, it's just a little stumble, I'm gonna go out on a high note, right? And he'll try to make a new project, but it doesn't seem like he's too interested in it right now. So if not, that's fine, honestly. God bless, man. You did make Sonic, and that's cool. And you also made Knights, which is also cool. But it's a shame that you couldn't really pull out an interesting title for your last one if you do decide to retire. You can always come out of retirement too, to be fair, but I think it's enough of that story. It's a bit of a bummer. Moving on to the next one. No More Heroes and No More Heroes 2 Desperate Struggle come to PC. It says coming, but they are already released as of this stream on June 9th. Now, I'm only including this because I had only one thing interesting to say about this. One, it is cool that these are coming to Steam. It's always nice. Made Sonic 06 my childhood game. Unironically, same to an extent. I played that game way too much. But anyway, No More Heroes 2 has come out to Steam. It's cool that these games are on Steam, but I have one thing you might have noticed now, as they're already out, is that they have mixed reviews on Steam, I believe, as does the Ninja Gaiden PC collection, which is also released on Steam on the same date, I think, or at very least a day after, something like that. It's kind of crazy because they're both ports of really old console games, and they're both extremely mediocre PC ports. I only included these because I found it noteworthy how both of these extremely mediocre PC ports were released within like a day of each other. There's something kind of mystical about that was really interesting to me. To give you an idea of how bad the PC port for Ninja Gaiden is, at least, they released a notification for their users before the game launched that you can only change the resolution of the game in the Steam launch options. Now, you may be wondering, what the hell do you mean by that? Well, it's quite simple. When you launch a game on Steam, you can right-click, go to the game's properties, and then edit Steam launch. Basically, you have to change the resolution settings at like an INI level, like in a folder, not actually in any in-game option. That doesn't exist. So that's kind of embarrassing, to be quite frank. That is a terrible, botched way to handle a resolution setting. They couldn't even be bothered to add a UI element. Like, that's crazy to me. And the No More Heroes ports aren't too great from what I hear either, but I have heard less about them, mainly because, honestly, if I'm going to play No More Heroes, I'm probably going to play them on either like the original Wii releases or on like the Switch, because I don't want to use those stupid waggle controls, because the games are kind of made with them in mind, But yeah, it's a shame that both of these ports came out again with like a span of a day of each other, and they're both shit. Like, they work, to my knowledge, and hopefully modders will be able to alleviate the problems, but I'm tired of saying that, you know what I mean? It's a shame I have to keep saying, well, hopefully modders will do this, and this, like the Bethesda problem, where you just have to hope that they fix the entire game for the developers. That's not a good look. That's not like a great situation to be in when it comes to, playing on what should be the definitive releases of these games, because when it comes to releasing a game on the PC platform, it's theoretically infinitely scalable, because Steam isn't going to get replaced by like the Steam 2 store, like the PSN store gets replaced, gets its PS3 store replaced with the PS4 store, right? It's going to be there forever, and you can scale with the PC hardware because it's a progressive platform like that, right? So ideally, it would be the best version of the game where you can just keep scaling it up and then modify it to your heart's content, right? And when it lacks basic features like that, even if in cases like this, that could technically make it still comparable to the console releases, because technically the console releases don't have any settings like that. And that's true, but it also makes them feel more stuck in their time when it comes to their... it makes them feel less like PC versions and more like just shitty ports, basically, right, of console games. Like, it didn't actually get a PC port yet, So it's not great. I personally really hate this type of porting, and I wish it would stop, but yeah, I'm sounding like a broken record at this point, you know? Stop making shit PC ports, etc., 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 etc. It gets old and it gets tiring to deal with them. On the bright side, though, those are the two most negative stories this week. The rest of the stories for this week were actually pretty cool. A lot of game announcements, both indie, Japanese, PC. In fact, there were so many that I had to cut out a lot. I basically only had to hand select which ones I found the most interesting. So I hope you'll understand. I just wanted to point out, by the way, I was looking at this article again before I move on. I love how it says 60 frames per second support and more. Wowzers, dude, that's crazy. Anyway, HD resolution, 60 frames per second gameplay, and additional features, including Steam Cloud support. That just means you have cloud saves, I'm pretty sure, but okay, thanks. Good lord. Anyway, a lot of cool games announced this week, as you could imagine. In the lead up to E3, there was a bunch of games announced, both at Summer's Game Fest and before it. So let's get into a couple of them. Some I'll be talking about for less time than others, because there are some of these I care about more than others personally, but that does not mean it's not something that you should check out. In fact, I recommend going to Gematsu.com and going through the huge list of stuff that has been announced recently, and seeing if you find anything that's interesting to you. Okay? Hell yeah. Moving on. First thing I saw that was interesting to me was Tohou Project action game by Kumaijo Remilia, I think? Scarlet Symphony. As you can imagine from this title and this art, it's clearly a Metroidvania-inspired game. I don't know if you guys know about these games, these Tohou Metroidvania games, but they're killer, right? They're actually, like, really good. They have amazing pixel art, and they have really fun worlds to like just walk around in. They have fun movement. They have amazing bosses that are inspired by the shmup games that the Tohou series is originally of, right? And this isn't the first. Ignore those VTuber recommendations. This isn't the first Tohou game that's a Metroidvania on Steam. By the way, it's really cool. I do highly recommend checking these games out. This trailer is unfortunately pretty short, and again, I don't have much to say about it because of that, but the games themselves, if you just like search Tohou on Steam or Switch, you'll find a couple of pretty good Metroid games to scratch that itch with, or Castlevania Symphony of the Night clones, I should say more specifically, if you want to scratch that itch, you know? I think these games are definitely worth checking out. This next story is pretty funny. So do any of you play Craftopia? Do any of you know what Craftopia is? Because I do. I know it as a game that my friends and I were bored on Steam once, and we searched for a bunch of stuff. We were looking through a bunch of random games trying to find something that was, like, entertaining or unique. And we found this game called Craftopia. It was a Japanese indie game in early access that had some of the most amazing GIFs I've ever seen in a game Steam page. There was like a bunch of cows on a conveyor belt just falling into a giant cooking pot. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen in my entire life, and we all bought it. And we played the game. It was okay, it had potential, but it was clearly still in early access, and I traditionally don't play early access games because of stuff like that. But yeah, it was fun in its own way. I think Hololive also had a deal with the studio who made that game, and they played it for like a good couple of weeks or so. They kind of stopped after a little bit, but and the same goes for me and my friends. We kind of stopped after like our first big world in session with the game, because it is quirky and it is good, but early access, it clearly wasn't finished, right? Not to be outdone though, the same developers have outdone themselves. They've done it again. They've created a game that has a bunch of like really, it seems to be like a Pokemon clone or something like that. I think it's also in early access and has multiplayer, and it's a game with a bunch of amazing little clips that make you go, well shit, I want to play this game. And you're probably going to play it, and it's going to be kind of garbage, but look at this. You see penguins handling up the wood to each other as you build this giant like house? That's cool. And look, you got the Pokemon like restoring electricity. Like, look at all these amazing GIFs and like clips of the game. Look at that. You see that? That's wild. Look, they're shooting guns. They're shooting the Pokemon. This is what I mean, right? They keep doing this. They can't keep getting away with it, these developers. They make like these games that seem to exist purely to make these amazing like little clips that like look so incredible. Like, look at this. You just like shotgun blasted them and you're using a Pokemon as a shield. Like, it's amazing, right? And it's probably bad. But I'm almost... Look, you just blew up a church with a rocket launcher. Look, there's an assembly of Pokemon making rifles. Did you see that? Look at that. It's wild, man. You see like this generic sniper scope for killing this boar dead? I'm telling you, these developers, they're wild. I don't even know their name. I just know that they're wild, man. They can't keep getting away with it, but they keep doing it. And I'm tempted to buy this game now, even though I'm pretty sure it's in early access, right? It'll launch in 2022. Is it not mentioned early access at all? Hang on, I think it's mentioned somewhere in this page. That's wild, it isn't. Oh my gosh, is it actually not gonna be in early access? Excuse me. It's gonna launch like a full completed game using their Craftopia money, I presume? I mean, again, look at these, look at that! Look at that! I'm willing to try it out. You got waifus and everything. I'm for it. Pal World by Pocket Pair. That's the name of the studio. I mean, they might get me again, is all I'm saying. The studio is wild. And they make some of the best trailers I've ever seen in my life. I've never been so hooked on such, like, seemingly busted, janky games. You know, maybe I'll go back and give Craftopia a shot, actually, because I don't know how long it's been updated. I know it did get pretty regular updates, but I remember just like trying to create a server. It was just awful, but who knows? Maybe it's much better now. Either way, this game, their new game, Pal World, looks kind of amazing, and I hope it lives up to that trailer. Next door, Darius Burst, another Chronicle EX Plus. Could you tell that this was a Japanese game from this title? Delayed to July 27th in the West. It was going to come out June 11th, but now it's not. Now you may be wondering, what the hell is this game? It's a series that started on the PSP, and it has arcade releases, excuse me. I remember really enjoying these games, which is why I put them on the list, but honestly, I don't have much to say about it other than, this is sad. I want to play this game. Wait, is this the game I'm thinking of? What is this game? No, wait. I'm thinking of a different game. I don't know why this is on the list. Redacted. Next door. Alright, this piece of news. Overwatch to implement crossplay. Alright. So, let me make something perfectly clear. I did not include this because I care about Overwatch. I don't care about Overwatch at all. I haven't cared about Overwatch since it's like a couple years after its release is when I stopped playing. I think I last played it when the hamster character came out, you know, the hamster and the ball. I tried him out in the training mode. I thought, oh, that's kind of fun. And that was the last time I played that game. I never actually played with him online. I remember thinking that the initial roster was really good, but it needed more maps. And instead, the developers decided to add nothing but more characters and basically no maps. And that's when I decided I didn't want to play this game anymore, because they just kept adding more and more characters, some that fucked with the balancing to varying degrees, and almost no new maps, so you're still playing the same maps over and over and over again. They added like 2 throughout the game's whole lifespan, I think. Maybe they added more, but like by the time I had finished playing it effectively, there was only like 1 new map in over the course of 2 years, and it was just like I can't play on these same maps for the rest of my life. The game isn't that fun, you know? Especially if they keep adding more characters that make the like counter meta that the game functioned under like even more obnoxious. Just wasn't to my taste. Another reason I wanted to bring this up though was just to talk about crossplay in general, because it's become a bit of a hot topic again recently. Recently, Sony prevented Gearbox Software, the makers of Borderlands, from allowing crossplay on the PlayStation between the games. So basically, Borderlands 3 is now crossplay with all platforms except PlayStation, which is, it sucks for those who like Borderlands. I personally do not care about Borderlands, but I hate the principle and the stance that Sony still takes with crossplay. It was revealed in an Epic Games lawsuit against Apple, excuse me. They revealed a court document that showed that Sony charges a fee to developers for having crossplay. And that is so shitty. I hate that so much. That is like the most... Crossplay is a thing that benefits literally everyone, except companies like Sony, of course, right? But even with that in mind, like, despite the success of the Switch or the success of whatever Microsoft is doing, because I don't know if I want to not call Xbox a success. I think it is a success because it seems to succeed what they intended it to sell, right? Which is all that really matters as far as like monetary gain is concerned, right? But even if it's sold the less of the three, or the least of the three, it doesn't really matter as long as it's what they intended it for the sell, right? So popularity doesn't necessarily mean success, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But point being, even if the other platforms are less popular than PlayStation, right? Or even if they're more popular than PlayStation, they still allow crossplay because, one, it doesn't affect your platform sales as much as you seem to think it does. And because the reason why Sony doesn't allow crossplay, just to explain if people don't get it from a business perspective, is because if a friend or a child buys a PlayStation 4, for example, right? Or a PlayStation 5, whatever, and they buy Borderlands 3, and their friend hasn't bought a console yet, but they want to play Borderlands 3 with that friend. They were thinking about buying it on PC, but then they hear that they can't play Borderlands 3 with his friend if he buys it on PC. So they're then encouraged to go buy a PlayStation and buy the game on the PlayStation Store, or buy DLC for the game on the PlayStation 4. Basically, you encourage another purchase of a console, one, and then two, more importantly, that then results in another person engaging on the PlayStation's store's network storefront, right? Which means that any purchase that they make on that storefront obviously goes to PlayStation, which means more sales. So that's the reason why PlayStation doesn't like crossplay. Make that perfectly clear, right? And it's the reason why theoretically most companies would not allow crossplay if given the opportunity, I imagine. But Microsoft and Nintendo seem to have just said, like, you know what, just allow it because it helps more people be able to play games. I think they see it differently, and it's the way I see it too. It won't necessarily sell them on a console, but what it will do is sell them people who normally wouldn't buy those types of games on that platform. It would encourage them to buy those types of games because they're like, oh, okay, I can still play with my friends and play it on my preferred platform. Great, right? So now you don't get like games that are effectively exclusive to a platform, not because that's the only release of the game is on that platform, but because that's the release that everyone decided to conjoin on, right? Because you can't play together on other platforms. I think the biggest problem that any genre of games has with this is definitely fighting games. They're a genre, basically, that in the online space is heavily favored towards PlayStation, and it's because most players are on PlayStation and most of these games don't have crossplay. That's not actually really the case anymore. There's only like a couple of big games that still don't have crossplay. Like, for example, all of Street Fighter V's releases have crossplay. I don't believe Tekken has crossplay, which is really disappointing. But the new game Guilty Gear Strive also does not, unfortunately, have crossplay. But it's going to get a crossplay update in the future, they said. So there you go. That's something. But it sucks that there's still games that don't have crossplay because it means you just divide the user base, which is really bad for a genre that's as niche as fighting games. So you can see why it's a big problem for that genre specifically, but it's bad for any game, right? I'm really proud, genuinely, of both Nintendo and Microsoft's approach when it comes to crossplay, of just always allowing it, no fees, no anything that gets in the way of it. And it's probably my biggest problem I have with Sony right now is that they are still so stubborn about this, because it's not right. It holds everyone back for no reason other than purely monetary. And I get it. They're a business. They have no reason not to only focus on the monetary, right? That's what they will do. They have no reason not to. I get that, but it doesn't feel good to me regardless. And I hate that they still refuse to get their act together when it comes to this stuff. Again, that doesn't really have anything to do with Overwatch's crossplay, because it actually will have crossplay with all platforms, but it's a bit late into that game's life to be doing this. Yeah, I mean, I guess theoretically, if there wasn't an Overwatch 2 coming out, it would be a good thing, because, you know, if it's a game that's supposed to keep getting regular updates, then yeah, okay, add the crossplay, because this is like a service game, right? But they're making a sequel to the service game that's theoretically going to make the first one irrelevant, so bit striking while the iron's cold on this one, but whatever. I just wanted to use it as a platform to talk about crossplay. So, yippee when crossplay, bad when no crossplay, very bad. Yuoni, I think? I don't know how to pronounce this, but it launches August 19th in the West. See, that's what I'm saying. I think that's what Nintendo and Microsoft do understand, right? Is that they allow crossplay because they know that if they just don't get in the way of the player's hands, or like the player's ability to play with their friends on whatever platform that they decide to get, that it encourages them to get it on that platform. Like, they're not thinking on the other end of the spectrum. They're not thinking about like what happens if someone is aware of what they're doing and decides not to out of spite, and they're not thinking of, even if someone's not aware, what if they just have a Switch and they want to play that game with PlayStation users, right? Like, now they just can't, and they're not going to go buy a PlayStation. Instead, what's going to happen is no one's going to play the game. So no developer, I need to make it clear, in defend Gearbox when it comes to Borderlands 3, no developer likes it when any of the console manufacturers do that. I guess it's only Sony that does it, so when Sony does that, right, all of them hate it. Because one, they don't like being charged extra fees, and two, they don't like splitting their own user base, because it's bad for business. It's only good for PlayStation. And even then, it's not even that good for PlayStation. You'd probably make more console sales if they didn't do it, if I'm being perfectly honest, but they've convinced themselves that's not the case, so it's just the way it is. It's really stupid, but whatever. Anyway, only reason I wanted to talk about this game is because I saw it announced. It's a Japanese horror game, a survival horror game for PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, etc., and it looks really cool. It reminds me, as you can see, I've already watched the trailer. The music in this trailer is sick. I don't know if I could play it for you. It's gonna like clash with the music I have here, and I don't know if the music is copyrighted. So I just recommend that you go and check out the trailer yourself on the Gematsu page, or if you just type in YUONI International Announcement Trailer, you can go watch it there and listen to the music. But it's very Silent Hill-esque, I noticed, which is always a plus for me. I love Silent Hill music. Not only that, the game looks really cool. It reminds me a lot of what were like those Taiwanese like school games that were also horror games that like the CCP tried to get rid of with all their power. By the way, fuck the CCP. Those games were really cool as well, and they also had like a really good horror vibe. Something about this setting is always just really creepy to me, and this aesthetic with like the red and like the having to like peek around corners and hold your breath, you know. Maybe it's just because I was maybe it's because school wasn't my favorite thing in the world as a kid, but school settings always freak me out. And I think this game, with both its music and its art design, looks pretty flippin' freaky. So I think it's another game that's coming out on pretty much every platform that's worth checking out. I love me some Japanese indie games, man. They're so good. But you know what else I love that's not an indie game? Super Monkey Ball, baby! So this is a game that was suspected to exist for a while now, a new Super Monkey Ball game, because recently Sega released their last console Monkey Ball game as a re-release HD version. Unfortunately, it wasn't Monkey Ball 1 and 2, the much superior games, but they released like the Wii game, I think it was, right? Which had like this weird motion gimmick and guardrails on the side, which ruins the whole point. I don't know why they did that. But whatever, there was a rumor going around for a while that they were actually making a new one, or rather were going to make a new one if that HD release sold well enough. And then the voice actor for the announcer, which was discovered by a YouTuber, by the way, they both got into contact with each other, and he leaked and was hinting for a while on Twitter, that voice actor, that the game, that he's had to record some new lines with Sega and that they're going to be making a new Monkey Ball game. And nothing happened for a while after he made that statement, so a lot of people began to think it was fake, myself included. But recently, the game has been rated. A game called Super Monkey Ball Banana Mania has been rated in a couple, in Brazil specifically in this news article, but I think it was rated in another country as well recently. So it looks like it's real, and I'm for that. I love me Super Monkey Ball, specifically 1 and 2. If you've never played those games, man, they're on GameCube. You can play them on Dolphin. They're amazing. They're really, really fun games. There's nothing quite like them. Fun fact, they're made by the Yakuza developers. It was their first games before they decided to go off and make Yakuza on the PS2. Pretty wild, right? Or at the very least, I should say that the director was the same and the producer. I'm not sure if all of the staff was similar. You never know how some of these companies operate, but at the very least, there was a lot of similar staff and there was the same director as the Yakuza series. So hell yeah, man. These games are so cool. I hope this is real. Please be real. I love Monkey Ball, man. Please let Monkey Ball be real. Monkey Ball be real. Monkey Ball be real. Oh, man. And then now we're going to start getting into some games that were announced at Summer Games Fest. For those who don't know, Summer's Games Fest was a Jeff Keighley hosted, not E3 thing. He did it last year since E3 was canceled, but E3 was not canceled this year, but he still decided to do it. So speaking of which, E3 starts tomorrow, and I might be doing some live stream reactions of... Actually, I probably won't do one for Ubisoft because Ubisoft is cringe and I don't want to watch it, but I might do ones for Microsoft, so stay tuned for that. But regardless of that, Summer's Games Fest got announced, and I kind of wish I did reactions to it now because they actually had some pretty cool stuff announced here. Starting with the first thing, Metal Gear... Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Metal Slug Tactics was announced for PC. This game looks so fucking cool and good. It looks so much better than it has any right to be. Just look at this trailer. Firstly, it's pixel art, as you can kind of see down here, and you're going to see here. Which, hell yeah, SNK games, modern SNK games being pixel art is kind of the coolest thing I've ever heard of. Look at that. It's just classic ass, amazing animation, Metal Gear pixel art. Hell yeah, by the way, all these amazing designs and this amazing animation that they made for this game. I don't know why this game, this random tactics... Like, by the way, it's called Metal Gear Tactics. Metal Gear. I keep saying Metal Gear. Metal Slug Tactics, because as you can see from the layout, it's based a lot on Final Fantasy Tactics. It's a tactical RPG, and except it's just Metal Slug. Metal Slug characters, Metal Slug moves and animation, and booba. Holy schmeat. It looks so good, right? Like, look at the pixel art. It's classic Metal Slug, man. And the gameplay looks like a really good tactics-inspired tactical RPG. Big booba, exactly. RGP, is that what I said? Shit. Seriously, though, like, it has no reason to look as good as it does. I remember the last Metal Slug game that came out was, like, this really shitty-looking 3D game from, like, a top-down perspective. It was like a twin-stick shooter or something. Compared to that, this is like a complete return to form, even though it's not actually a 2D shooter, right? It's a tactics game, but it surprisingly lends itself a lot to that format. And just hell yeah, dude. This animation, this game, you know what it reminds me a lot of? It reminds me a lot of one of the best games that came out last year, Streets of Rage 4. That game was also a return to a classic art style and a return to a classic old arcade series, and it did it perfectly. And it had amazing animation and modern adaptations of characters, and this is the same as far as I'm concerned. Except you could argue it's even better in some aspects because it's that game. Streets of Rage 4 used like just really good looking 2D art, whereas this is a return to pixel art, which I still love SNK pixel art. I'm not sure if it was actually by SNK this game, publisher Dotemu, and developer Liquidar Studio. See, I've never heard of either of these people before in my entire life, and neither of them were SNK, despite the fact that Metal Slug is an SNK series. At least I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, and of course it is. So I don't know who these people are, but goddamn, they're doing a better job with this series than SNK has in like the past like decade. So I'm for it. This game looks sick. I love tactics games. Well, I shouldn't say I love tactics games. I've only ever played a couple, but everyone I have played has been really fun. And this game will probably be the first one I actually finish because I can't wait for this game. This game looks really cool. To gush a little bit less about something, though, let's move on to the next thing that was announced at Summer's Games Fest that I cared enough to talk about, which is Death Stranding Director's Cut. So I'm not sure how many people have played Death Stranding in this chat. I know very few people have among my friend group, and very few people have amongst people that I know in general. But I've played it. I played it on PS4, and I considered buying it on PC, but I didn't really. I liked Death Stranding. I didn't like its story, but I liked its gameplay, surprisingly. I found that it just kind of was, the gameplay was a bit self-defeating near the end, though, where, like, the whole game is built around, at first, you trying to get around obstacles with, like, this really interesting walking system. Like, call it a walking simulator all you want. It is technically true, but it's more of a walking simulator in the sense something like one of those, like, truck driving simulators is a simulator, rather than, you know, like a Gone Home style game where there's basically no real interesting input for the player. There is actually a whole rotomotive system going on with the legs and in the terrain and stuff like that, and it's really interesting. The problem is when you get to the end of the game, as you keep playing, you get to completely ignore all that stuff, which makes the game really boring and uninteresting. So that was the only big problem I had with it, aside from the story. The story was hot garbage. I wasn't a big fan of like any of it. I thought it was all just some of Kojima's worst writing that he's probably ever made. All of the characters were not really likable to me at all, except for like maybe one. All the acting was really awkward and stilted. It was a very weird, but a very Kojima style game. So you might still like it if you really like Kojima's style of work. But he announced a director's cut version of it for PS5. I assume it's going to be coming to PC as well, just because Nvidia tweeted this trailer doing like the little eyeballs emoji thing. You know, you guys know what those are, like the looking eyeballs. They tweeted that with this because, you know, Nvidia I believe Nvidia at least sponsored. Yeah, they did. They sponsored the PC release of Death Stranding because it had DLSS 2.0, an amazing implementation of DLSS 2.0. For those who don't know, made the game run super smooth and looked arguably better than native resolution at 4K, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, this trailer was a bit nothing. It was more or less an interview with Jeff Keighley and Kojima. That's basically all this was. And in the interview, they state that, you know, stay tuned for more in the next coming weeks, which I assume is going to be some PlayStation-style E3 press conference, state of play thing. I don't know. I'm guessing that's when that's going to happen. They're going to talk about this and maybe some other Final Fantasy properties because those have a PlayStation deal going on with those. Yeah. This trailer, it feels like bait. It's a director's cut. I'm assuming this is content that's going to be in this director's cut. And if any of you have played Metal Gear, you take one glimpse at it and you go, okay, wait a minute. That looks like the first area in Metal Gear Solid 1 when you're infiltrating Shadow Moses and there's a bunch of guards. It's not quite the same, but you know, it looks pretty similar. And then it's also playing like Metal Gear style music. Someone pointed out that it sounds a lot like the Sons of Patriots song from Metal Gear Solid 2. If you ever played that? Which Death Stranding wasn't as much a stealth game as the Metal Gear Solid series was, or Metal Gear series was in general. So stealth elements, it was more about traversal, right? So I'm not really sure how the mechanics of Death Stranding are going to work in a stealth-like setting like this, because it's just going to be much more restricted than something like Phantom Pain. It might work, maybe, I don't know. But all this trailer shows us, there's no gameplay. It just shows him doing this funny bit with the box. He looks at the box and he goes, oh, I can maybe fit in that box. And he turns it over and he goes in the box. Look, and he stays there for a while like a cat. Then he leaves the box And away he goes. That's the trailer. Look, he puts it back even. It's agonizingly slow, the trailer. I think that's the point, though. I think I'm trying to be funny. But to me, the joke didn't really land because it didn't really reveal anything other than maybe there's going to be Metal Gear style stealth sections. Maybe there's going to be Metal Gear tie-in. I don't know why else he would include that really elongated joke about the director's cut. Who knows? Again, there's going to be more to talk about it in the upcoming weeks at PlayStation's State of Play thing. That's, I guess, is happening. I don't know. It hasn't actually been announced yet, but we can only presume because they said to wait out for a couple weeks and it's a PlayStation 5 release. So who knows? Yeah, it's okay. I mean, we can't really judge anything because we haven't really seen anything from it. But as far as that trailer is concerned, it seemed like just kind of masturbatory fan service almost. That seemed to be all the trailer really was. More information coming soon, by the way. I don't know. I mean, I didn't want to buy it on PC because I already bought it on PS4 and played it, and I didn't enjoy it that much. At least the end game I didn't enjoy that much. So if they have a director's cut that fixes some of that or allows for more replayable sections, I'd be interested because, again, I did like what it was doing with the Rotomotive stuff. In fact, I would actually be tempted if they include the PS5's features, like its controller features for this. It would actually make the walking even more interesting because they have how you have to constantly hold the triggers to maintain balance. Actually, the triggers of the DualSense would actually really work for this game, now that I think about it. I hope that on a PC release of this director's cut, the DualSense triggers would be detected and work, because they can do that. Metro Exodus's developers allowed DualSense features to work if you had a DualSense plugged in, right, on that PC version, right? So he could do that for the PC version of Death Stranding as well. So, and you know what? The Death Stranding sorry about that. The Death Stranding PC port was really good, so I wouldn't be surprised if you were to do something like that. Yeah, exactly, that emoji. Thank you, Luxtrek. Yeah, we'll see. Again, I do like Kojima's past work. I mostly liked playing Death Stranding. Just, I would never play it again, probably, unless this director's cut has something really interesting to offer. Speaking of something really interesting to offer, which has some really cool gameplay, Solar Ash. Does anyone know what this is? This is a game made by the same people who made... How in God's name am I forgetting? Solar Ash, it's made by, published Heart Machine. Heart Machine made Hyper Light Drifter. It says it right down there. Thank you. For those who have never played Hyper Light Drifter, it's a game with amazing, gorgeous pixel art, but it's otherwise just like a Link to the Past style Legend of Zelda. Well, it's not. It's kind of between Link to the Past and original Legend of Zelda style of gameplay, because it is like more open than Link to the Past, but not quite as open as the original Legend of Zelda. But basically, it's a Zelda-inspired top-down game with gorgeous pixel art. I wasn't the biggest fan of it because I thought the world design was kind of boring to traverse, even if it was gorgeous to look at. It just wasn't a lot of interesting secrets as far as I was concerned. It was just a lot of like the same puzzles over and over again. But Solar Ash is their new game, and it's actually a 3D game, not a pixel game. Partially disappointed by that, sort of. But you can't really complain when their 3D looks just as interesting and visually. And the gameplay for this is really cool. Now, the headline here is that they added a PS4 and PS5 version, which is cool. But the more interesting thing to me is just this new gameplay we got to see. You got rail grinding, you got climbing, and you're going to see it soon here. You're going to have, I think, a zip line of some kind. Look at that. Woo! See, it seems like you can stick onto any surface you press RB on like that, and the sense of like gravity on everything looks really cool. Look at like that skating around that he does, man. Dude, just like the world design and visuals are just so impressive in these developers' games, dude, man. They're definitely worth checking out if you like I should say Hyper Light Drifter is worth checking out if you like classic Zelda style adventure games. I just now realized the PC release of this is Epic Games Store. That's depressing. Did not know that. I want to throw up now. But at the very least, yeah, fuck, I didn't know that. Well, whatever. Anyway, the game itself looks really good. I'm probably gonna play it and buy it on the Epic Store regardless, because I'm a cuck. And you can buy it on PS4 and PS5 if you're also interested. I also recommend Hyper Light Drifter if you're into classic Zelda-style games. This doesn't look like it's going to be like that, though, so I'm not really sure if it's going to be good or if it's going to be worth a recommendation, but I like what it's showing here, even if it has nothing to do with what Hyper Light Drifter was going for, which it doesn't have to, right? It's not like a sequel to Hyper Light Drifter, even if it obviously has a very similar art style. It's just, you know, a game made by the same people. So if this game is a bunch of like stuff like this, where you're like climbing giant monsters and skating around them like that, and the world as well, that looks like it's gonna be fun. I like the sense of momentum you have on like everything. It looks cool. All right, moving on. Next piece of news. Next door. So, hang on, I only really have one thing to say about this. Give me a moment. Fall Guys Ultimate Knockout Nier Automata 2B costume launches June 18th. It's Fall Guys, and it has a 2B costume. This was kind of my shitpost inclusion. It was announced at Summer's Games Fest, and when I saw it, I kind of something weird happened in me, where I was just like, huh, okay, that's cool. All I really have to say about this is this tweet from Yoko Taro. Everything that lives is designed to end. Happy face. That's really all I have to say about that. Yeah. Weird world we live in, right? People talk about this. Yeah, it's I don't think a lot of people want to talk about it if assuming you're referring to the Fall Guys. It's I don't really know what else to say other than what Yoko Taro said, honestly. It's like, I think I'm just gonna move on. 2B is in Fall Guys. Surprisingly high quality costume, right? Next piece of news, DokiDoki Literature Club Plus announced for PS5, Xbox Series, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Steam, specifically. So for those who don't know, I'm sure a lot of people here do, or rather, probably people know better than me, actually, when it comes to stuff like this. DokiDoki Literature Club is a free visual novel game that goes into interesting places if you've never played it. This is, as the developer put it, it's due out June 30th. What'd they call it? They had like words to say about it. It's like they said, like they put their heart and soul into this complete repackaging. Key features: 6 new side stories about friendship and literature, totaling hours of new content. Over 100 unlockable images, including new game art, wallpapers, never before seen concept sketches, and more. So, yeah. What of DokiDoki Literature Club? Please get the PS5 version. PS4s have 4K 120 FPS of DokiDoki Literature Club Plus. Shit, you're right. Damn. PC friends, we keep losing. Yeah, obviously this is going to run completely fine on every platform. As a visual novel, it requires no precise input whatsoever. And it's a bunch of PNG, so it's not even rendering too much, so you're going to be fine. It has a limited edition here that comes with oh, that's cute. It's a soundtrack download key, I'm presuming, because it's on this floppy disk, but I don't think it's actually a floppy disk, right? So I think it's just like a key down there, right? Comes with these figures, notebook. I only included this because I knew some people were really into DokiDoki Literature Club. I have a friend who is. A little girl that gets, oh my god, I didn't even realize that. I guess it is the first time this game is on the Switch, so yeah, I could see like that getting like a kid being like, oh, what's this? I like anime, what's this? And then they play it, they buy it on their Switch, and they get to the end and they're like, oh! Not to spoil anything, of course, but that's interesting. I didn't consider that more generations who have maybe not heard of this game and think it looks rather innocent are going to play this. Is it rated M? Because I think it has to be because of the content in it, but it's like you don't really know why it's rated M because until you play it, right? So I wonder if kids would. I mean, I played a bunch of rated M games as a kid, so it's whatever. Yeah, this is again. I'm not personally. I don't really care about DokiDoki too much, but I know a lot of people do, and I think the fact that this developer released this game for free is, but a lot of parents don't care, I say. I think the fact that they released this initial game for free was a really cool statement on the developer's part, right? This trailer is pretty interesting. Uncontrollably horrific. And I have watched other people play it, and it's pretty spooky. It doesn't hit me as hard, but I think it's probably because I didn't actually play it myself, you know? So, yeah, maybe if I did, I would have actually enjoyed it a bit more. It's an interesting experiment, and again, I'm just glad that it's nice to see a developer who puts up so much passion behind something like this, and it gets so popular, and it's a free game with like no DLC or anything like that. It was just purely a passion project, right? And I'm just glad it worked out for them because that's hard work paying off. And again, it's kind of like a success story, you know. I like these kinds of stories, and this looks to be like a good definitive version of the game too. So if you're interested, pick it up. All right, we've talked about a lot of things thus far. Some interesting, some good, some sad. But the king of the Summer's Games Fest, for me at least, I don't think this was actually announced at Summer's Games Fest, by the way, but it was just it just kind of was in the news, and I wanted to save the last thing for last. I saw a little kid attached to the cover art of Catherine. That's a kid with culture. Because that cover art's not exactly kid-friendly either. Isn't it just like Vincent like just falling down in some boobs? What a cultured kid. Anyway, that aside, speaking of godlike cover arts, the last thing that was announced at Summer's Games Fest was the release date of Elden Ring. This game was a game a lot of people were looking forward to for a long time. For those who don't know, somehow, this is the game that is a team up between George R.R. Martin, the writer of the Game of Thrones books, and From Software, the creator of the Dark Souls franchise and other Souls-like franchises. Elden Ring actually exists. Not only does it exist, it looks really cool, and it's coming to all platforms on January 21st, 2022. Not even that far away, only 6 months. So, to explain why this trailer was so successful for me, and why this reveal was so cool to me, was I wasn't actually too interested in this game when I heard about it, because I thought it was just going to be another Dark Souls game, and I lost interest after 3. I lost interest after 3. I thought 3 was just like, remember Dark Souls the game? I'm one of those people, and I get it was supposed to be like a series send-off, but nothing that did really interest me, and I thought this formula started to get a bit stale at that point. My favorite Souls game is still like Dark Souls 1 and Demon Souls, right? So, because like I think the biggest appeal to the games to me were always like their settings, and their settings to me got really stale after the first game. But this game's setting looks so fucking cool. It looks like Berserk's. I'm just going to be upfront with it. All the monsters and the designs look so cool, and they look ripped straight out of Berserk, and I don't care because Berserk's art design is cool. Look at all of these. Look at those monsters, dude. Those, like, it's like peak Japanese monster design, this game, man. Like, there's another one later on. Like, you get those pots with the weird arms. Got these fucking skeletons with the crowns and the robes. They got, like, 6 arms. I don't know if this is influence from George R.R. Martin's, like, monster writing or something like that. but it looks like a combination of Western high fantasy and Japanese dark fantasy, which is exactly what Berserk is, which is why I love it so much, right? That might be a bit of a disingenuous way to describe Berserk, because Berserk is like wholly original, honestly, if you ask me. But like, that was a very Berserk-like move as well. But like, look, firstly, this is volume 28 of Berserk, by the way. He's literally wearing a Berserker armor, but it's a Wolfman. That's cool. Like, you don't really see stuff like that in the other Souls games. You kind of see it, but they're usually more just dark fantasy, right? They don't have, like, wolf creatures, or, as we see later in this trailer, like, unicorns with half a body and, like, this mist flying around them. And look at this dragon grabbing a lightning bolt and shoving it into the ground. You can also see that there's a horse in this game, and you can use it to jump around the effects and use it in battle. We'll see how that looks. The gameplay itself seems to be just box standard Souls, except combined with some of the stuff they implemented in Sekiro. So we have the jumping, as you can see right after here, not just on the horse, but he dodges to the right, and then he jumps right there, you can see, over one of the slashes. So it's probably going to be most close gameplay-wise to Sekiro, but of course there's going to be horseback riding and magic spells, as you're going to see later in this. That design on that person looks so cool, this girl's design. It just looks like peak fantasy, dude. I love everything about the way it looks, even if the gameplay and the story looks like it's going to be a bit of a retread of the previous Souls games, where they keep talking about someone called the Tarnished, and it's just like a replacement for Chosen Undead or the Slayer of Demons, you know? It's been the same for a while now, but like, did you see that though? Like, look at that. Look how beautiful this looks. It looks like Hogwarts, but it's got like this mystical mist around it. Like, that looks cool, man. Looks at like have a variety of style of gameplays as well. Like, you have this magic build from Souls games, which is absent in games like Bloodborne, which had very similar builds for every character, right? And look at this. This is the coolest part of the trailer to me. Look at this thing. Look at this half deer breathing what seems to be just pure magic flying around in the air. That just looks so cool. Everything about this setting and this world looks peak of just design in general. And I am absolutely floored. I cannot wait to play it. I hope the gameplay is as fun. Maybe, I think I'm gonna have an advantage here because I've taken a break from playing Souls games for a while. So even if I go back and play a game that's basically just Dark Souls 4 in terms of gameplay, it will still feel kind of fresh to me because I've taken such a long break. I cannot wait for this game. I did not expect to like it as much as I did, but this trailer sold me completely. It looks so fucking cool. I loved every single second of it, dude. It just looked wicked. Like, every single setting, the horse riding, I'm a big fan of riding around horses in worlds, as you can tell by my love of Shadow of the Colossus and Breath of the Wild. That's just my favorite mode of traversal in most games, and I hope this one feels good. It might not, who knows? But like a cool setting, man. I'm sure George R.R. Martin had something to do with this game setting because he is the one writing for it, right? And props to him. He made a cool as fuck looking setting, dude, which he is known to do, to be fair. That is his forte. So I'm glad he seems to have taken a head charge in that and left the designs up to the fucking masters at From Software, because all these monsters look so cool and all these visuals look so cool. I just hope the story is also pretty good, because like the story of something like Sekiro was just kind of like, it was okay from what I've seen. I need to go back and play that game because I don't think I ever actually finished it for myself because I wasn't too interested in how it played. But this just looks so fucking cool, dude. I can't wait for this game. I really hope it's a big step up from what the other games were in terms of gameplay, and I really hope that the open world stuff makes it is actually fun to traverse and doesn't feel like a slog. And I really hope that every character in this is as memorable as some of the series' best in Demons and Dark Souls. That's basically all I can hope for, right? I only can hope that it's as memorable as those games to me, because Dark Souls was also a successor to Demon Souls, but I loved it just as much, if not more. It's after that game that the game started to become a bit stale to me. I don't even like Bloodborne as much as some other people do, even if I think it's a bigger success than like 3 or 2, obviously. But this game, man, It has potential to be something special, and it was absolutely worth the wait. It looks awesome. And now that I've waxed poetic about that, we're going to finish off the show with one last little piece of news. And it's something I'm going to end the show with every week, I think. And that's the Famitsu sales roundup. Yay! Bachi, 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 bachi. For those who don't know what that is, every week Famitsu releases their sales numbers for Japan. They only cover physical releases of games and consoles, of course. Well, you can't really do digital release of a console, but you know what I mean. But it's something I like to stare at every week because I think it's just kind of interesting. So, what were the numbers this week? We're only going to be covering the top 10 releases unless there's something interesting down here that I note. So, the top 10 was actually not covered by entirely Nintendo Switch games this week. Look at that. That's a nice change of pace. It was Miitopia at number 1, selling 25,000 units with a total now of 132,000. There were no new games in the top 10 this week, unfortunately. Here are a couple new games down here, but they only sold a couple K, so nothing too impressive. But I also don't think these games are that well known. The PS4 version, actually no, I was going to say the PS4 version of this game sold a little bit more than the Nintendo Switch version, but they're basically the same. A difference of 50 units. Again, no new games. Monster Hunter Rise is continuing to sell very well. It's at 2.2 million units. It's got legs selling about 20K each week, which is exactly what I hear for a game with legs over in Japan. Same, Ring Fit Adventure continues to sell like crazy every week. This game, there's no game quite like Ring Fit Adventure. I also own Ring Fit Adventure. It's the only game that does exercising really well, I think. It's just like a fun game that plays so distinctly, and it can only really work on the Nintendo Switch, which I think is a key advantage. I think whoever at Nintendo decided to fund this game is absolutely genius, and they deserve a raise. Minecraft. It's Minecraft. Momotaru Denetsu. I forget what game this is. Oh, this is like the Monopoly Fortune Street style game. Right, the railroad game. Bowser's Fury, of course. Mario Kart 8, of course. Smash Bros, of course. Rune Factory, selling another 6,000 units, keeping in the top 10. Congrats to Marvelous. That's a pretty big accomplishment. And Resident Evil Village continues to sell worse than the previous games in the series, in Japan at least, which is a bit disappointing. It's the PS4 version, of course. I don't think the PS5 version's anywhere. Oh, there it is at number 23. It sold 2,000 this week. So I think the PS4 version has sold over three times the amount of the PS5 version. Nothing too surprising here. Hope you guys like numbers. This is all this end of the week thing is going to be every week now. It's just going to be numbers. If we go on to hardware sales, because there's nothing too interesting here anymore. We have Nintendo Switch at number 1, of course, in Japan at 74,204 units. The Switch Lite, which is considered its own separate SKU, at 23,004 units. If you combine both of these, the Switch is at over 20 million units, which is the third console in all of Japan to ever do that. So clap it up for Switch. Very impressive numbers. PlayStation 5 is at 16,000 units, totaling at 668,887, which is better than the previous projections expected it to be at, but still, I think, worse off than the PS4 is right now, and it's only barely above the PS3, which was a legendarily abysmal launch. I don't think the PS5 has really released a title that a lot of Japanese are interested in, so the PlayStation is still, as you can see, kind of a declining brand in Japan. We'll have to see if they start to release or do anything that makes it more of a popular brand over there again, but only time will tell. The PlayStation 4 actually sold more than the PS5 digital edition. That's not surprising. Digital sales in general are never as strong in Japan because it's a very physical country when it comes to games, though they are increasing in popularity. Xbox Series X sold 346 units. Yep. And the new Nintendo 2DS SLL sold 341 units, which beat out the Xbox Series S. That's a bit embarrassing. And that is our Famitsu sales for this week. Overall, I don't have anything too interesting to say about it because no new games came out except for these two. And honestly, I don't know what these are, so I didn't really have any expectations for them. The sales for the new version of Judgment aren't surprising because it's, well, Japan typically doesn't buy re-releases except if they're Nintendo ones, apparently, given this. But, you know, and this, actually. But, you know, the Switch is clearly dominating still, as they have been every week in multiple countries, actually, but in Japan specifically. Sony really needs to do something about this thing over there. It seems like they aren't trying, and they really should be, because this is really not acceptable for the big first PlayStation 5 release. Obviously, the PlayStation 4 version would sell more, but over 3 times more? That's kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe it is normal and I'm just overreacting. Miitopia is the #1 seller this week. This game is actually a re-release as well, now that I think about it. It's a re-release of a 3DS game. A lot of people, it has some new features though, and the Mii Maker in it is crazy good. Some people have been making some crazy good Miis in that, so if you're interested, you can check that out. I need to play more Monster Hunter Rise, man. This game's good. Alright, and I think that covers it, I believe. Yeah, that's all the news I have to talk about this week. E3 is starting tomorrow, so I'm going to be reacting to some of the presentations over the course of the week, not all of them, because some of them just don't interest me. Like, I don't think there's going to be anything interesting for me to say about the Ubisoft conference. I'll definitely be reacting to the Xbox conference and the Nintendo one. All the other ones are kind of up in the air. I might watch Square Enix because apparently Babylon Fall is going to be there, and I like me some Platinum games, but we'll have to wait and see. It might not be something I'm too interested in because it's going to be a mostly Western-focused show for them, I think, this year. Again, we'll have to wait and see. As for the news week this week, yeah, you're completely right. Things don't get interesting until the 13th. That's definitely true. And then they stop getting interesting on the 14th, and they get interesting again on the 15th. 13th, there's going to be a lot of shows. That's going to have to do it for me for this week, though. Again, I hope you all enjoyed watching. I'm probably going to go play more Guilty Gear Strive on PC because that came out, and that game is pretty fun when the servers work. I hope you all enjoyed watching and chatting with me again. I thank you all for that. It was a real blast, and it was a nice way to cheer me up after the unfortunate news this week with my Kaicho. But that's just we just gotta keep supporting her, man. Keep staying positive, like she says. Hope we see more FF16. I hope so too. They seem to imply that we're not going to, if we don't, expect a PlayStation State of Play to happen a couple weeks later, and then you'll see it there probably. We'll have to wait and see though. I hope that game doesn't actually stay PS5 exclusive. I hope it's on PC too, but it probably will be. I know, and the original footage was captured on PC. I just don't hope it's not like a 6-month long wait like FF7 Remake was and now is extending past. So I hope it's not that bad. We'll have to wait and see. Anyway, that's going to do it for me for the night, lads. Thank you again for watching. As always, stay safe. God bless. Jana. Bye-bye.